This is the Saint's Journey. We are dedicated to encouraging spiritual growth. In each of our series, we look to the biblical text to connect the gospel to our daily lives. Let's jump in. Most of us today, whether we follow Jesus or not, typically use the word God to describe the deity of the Bible. But would it shock you if I told you that God is not actually His name? Listen, I'll admit, growing up, I didn't give this too much thought, and I highly doubt that you did either. I just trusted that the God that I had come to know was named God. But God is not actually a name. It's actually a title. In the Hebrew, it is El or Elohim, which simply describes either creator God or divine beings or even pagan gods. And in the Old Testament, we actually see several different names that humanity gave to God when we had either an experience or an encounter with Him. Stick around for future videos and we'll talk more about those names. But in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Genesis chapter 2 and verse 4, it says, "These are the records of the heavens and the earth concerning their creation at the time that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens." Why the change from God to Lord God? Well, again, we'll cover that in future videos. But let's consider the context from Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. As Moses is writing the Torah, polytheism is really everyday life for most of humanity. So the claim that Genesis chapter 1 and 1 is making is not that here is another name of another God to worship. Instead, it is making the claim that this God, this divine being, is the only true God with the power to create this world. He's the only one true God that is and who was and who is to come, as Revelation chapter 1 and verse 4 says. And Paul makes the same exact proclamation and claim in Acts chapter 17, verses 22 through 24. It says, "Paul stood in the midst of the Areopagus, and he said, 'People of Athens, I see that you are extremely religious in every respect. For I was passing through and observing the objects of your worship. I even found an altar on which was inscribed, "To the unknown God." Therefore, what you worship in ignorance, this I proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it, He is Lord of heaven and earth." And it says He does not live in shrines made by hands. All right, great. Now we know that God isn't His name, but it is a title that proclaims that He is the one true divine being with the power to create. But what does that do for our Christian journey? Well, consider Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27 with me. "So God created man in His own image. He created him in the image of God. He created them male and female." In other words, God created us to be like Him or like His characteristics, like a divine being. That means that out of the entire beautiful creation that we can see, you and me are uniquely qualified to represent Creator God. And so the only question is, now that we know that we are made in the image of the one true God, the only Creator God, what are we going to do with that knowledge? Are we just going to look at it and keep living our lives, or are we going to stop and pause and ask ourselves, does my life reflect the goodness, the holiness, the kindness of Creator God, or does my life reflect more of this world and more of the serpent? I hope that you'll join us next time for our next episode and our next name of God. But until then, keep seeking as you continue your journey.